A new and very disturbing documentary just premiered at the Human Rights Film Festival here in Montreal. It's called Ghosts. It's about the lives of 3 Canadian men from Arab backgrounds who were detained, imprisoned, tortured in Syria and Egypt for months, years, then released with no charges laid. The film raises a lot of uncomfortable questions, from the use of torture to the role of the Canadian government in what exactly happened to these men. Mulvari Samare is the director and producer of Ghosts. She joins us now. First of all, why did you decide to do this film? It must have been something you felt was very important to you.
Yes, indeed. We noticed that the cases of Abdullah al-Malki, Ahmed Abu al-Mati and Mayed Nuruddin were not receiving much publicity, and the Canadian public and the international community didn't really know what had happened to them. The case of Maher Arar, who's another Canadian citizen who was imprisoned and tortured in Syria for quite some time, was widely publicized, but these cases, which are very similar to Maher Arar's case, were not.
I know, working in the media, I was not that familiar with them, to be honest with you. Of course, Maher Arar, yes, but these 3 no. What's the most important message that you want people to know about what happened to these men?
It is very important to be aware that even democratic nations such as Canada can be complicit in acts of torture, and that this isn't something that happens in a faraway country necessarily, and we need to all be very careful with our governments and question their policies and so on, so that cases such as these don't ever occur. In cases of the 3 men, the Canadian government was indeed complicit. The RCMP ceases in defeat, and it is also, this was made very clear in the Yagabuchi report, which was released in 2008, and also the supplemental report that was released only weeks ago.
You're just so people at home know, you're talking about the Yagabuchi, the inquiry. He was an ex-Supreme Court justice who looked into this case and confirmed that, in fact, all 3 of these men were tortured.
Yes.
Either he said indirectly by some actions of the Canadian government at various levels. There are people out there, and I want to be devil's advocate, who are going to say, well, when this happens to people, where there's smoke, there's fire. If they were imprisoned and unfortunate things happened to them, maybe there was something to this. What's your counter-argument to that?
I don't believe that torture is ever justifiable under any circumstances, and Canada is indeed a signatory party to the Convention Against Torture, and which states clearly that torture is not acceptable under any circumstances. And if the Canadian government had any solid evidence against these men, they should have questioned them within the law of the country and within its borders, and not in a way subcontracted the torture.
And also in a transparent way,
exactly.
In an inquiry that people could actually... we talked about the lack of coverage that the media had about these 3 cases had covered. Do you think Canadians really understand what exactly happened to some of these people?
No, I don't. I think that many people aren't really aware of what happened, and those people who even hear about these cases might have a sense of disbelief because Canada has such an amazing reputation internationally. And one of the reasons why the Yagabuchi report was held in secret, which was the first inquiry in Canadian history to be almost conducted entirely in secret, was with great likelihood also to not tarnish the reputation of Canada.
The Canadian government's role, do you think we'll ever really know how involved Canada was, either through CSIS, the RCMP, Department of Foreign Affairs? Because even the Yagabuchi report, it's vague.
Yes. The Yagabuchi report makes it clear that these agencies that you mentioned are indirectly involved in the cases of the men by information sharing and also labeling them and profiling them as terrorists and imminent threats to Canada without any evidence. But the supplementary report that was released only weeks ago even shows that CSIS agents traveled to Syria, to Egypt, to question Mr. al-Mati directly. So these agencies should definitely have been aware that these countries do engage in torture and that these Canadian citizens were at risk of being tortured, and anything less than that is willful blindness.
I want to thank you for coming on and talking to us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
The name of the documentary is Ghosts. Samare, thank you very much and appreciate it. And your documentary was on at the Human Rights Film Festival. Yes. And where else can people see it?
It will also be screened in Montreal, 7:30 tonight at Cinema Politica, which is at Concordia.
At Concordia.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lisa McCauley standing by.